Thank you, everybody that's here in person, the Bechtel boardroom for our Donuts and Development. I'm Carl Dye from Tridec. Again, really great turnout here in the Bechtel boardroom. I think I said maybe on a couple earlier episodes that it was packed, and it sort of was, but the last 2 months have been really packed. So thanks everybody for showing up here in person. Today we have our partners from the ports, and we are going to get updates from all of them and take some questions and talk about all the work that the ports are doing, all the development that's going on here. Afterwards, well, first of all, this episode, this thing is, our meeting is sponsored by Port of Kennewick. And Tim, we really appreciate the sponsorship.
You're welcome. Our pleasure.
The partnership amongst all our ports, but the sponsorship for today. And Tim will also be leading a bonus tour afterwards for anybody that wants to stick around of Vista Field. We're right next door. We're going to do like a walking tour over there. So if you're interested in what's going on with Vista Field that Tim's going to talk about in a minute and then see it firsthand, join us immediately after our episode, I guess we call it. It's not really TV. So
I feel like I'm on TV. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, we've got media here and everything.
Also, an important disclaimer before we get going is if you want to hear more about what the ports are up to, our partners at Tri-City Regional Chamber are also having the same panel. Inadvertently, we didn't plan it out. It just kind of happened that way. But we do want to plug that they will be on again April 23rd for State of the Ports. And so a much larger gathering. Just want to make sure that we support our partners. Didn't mean to get line ahead of them. It's all good. We're all partners. We'll work together. So I'm going to go through and introduce everybody. I already talked about Tim. Tim Arntzen is the executive officer of the Port of Kennewick. Tim, good morning.
Good morning.
Joining us. Adam Lincoln is the newest member of the port team, the executive director of Port Pasco. Good morning, Adam. Good morning. And Diahann Howard is the executive director of Port of Benton. Good morning, Diahann.
Good morning, Carl.
Thanks everybody for joining us. We're going to get right into it. Tim, I think you got the clicker and you got some slides. So why don't you kick us off?
Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Tridec, Carl, and your team for inviting us here. I see a lot of so far friendly faces. I'll try to keep it that way with my slides, not do anything that's too offensive. Afterwards, like Carl mentioned, we can do a brief walking tour of Vista Field if you'd like to, and I'm glad it's today rather than yesterday with that rain we had. So what I'll do is I'll run through a few slides here. I've got they've given me a mechanical device here, and if I can point it in the right direction, I'll run you through some slides. What we want to talk about first, kind of there's a lot of things that our local ports can do. There's 76 port districts throughout the state, and some of them are engaged in heavy commerce. If you go to Seattle and sail the cranes, Port of Tacoma, Seattle. But some of the other ports like us are more focused on other types of economic development activity. And what you'll see in our slides here, this is a good starting one because you say we're trying to foster jobs. We don't create jobs. Let's not be mistaken about that. It's generally the private sector that creates the jobs. So we say we want to foster the jobs. We want to do what we can at the government level to kind of help the private sector create the opportunities. And we've seen it in our community where there's a great partnership between the government entities, large and small, and then the private sector comes in. So just want to let you know that when we talk about jobs, it's the assistance that our ports provide to the private sector. We also build infrastructure. You can see it in the middle slide there. And that kind of dovetails with fostering jobs because a lot of times if you have a development, there's huge front end costs. As you'll see in Vista Field, we had to put in $6 million of infrastructure before we got our first lot for sale. So a lot of times governments will come in and do that stuff that is a loss leader, so to speak, put in the infrastructure, put in your underground utilities, your roads, your sidewalks, your street trees, and all that stuff. And then it kind of sets the table for the private sector. And then the third part of it, this is one that I think is a lot of fun. And Diahann and Adam know that with ports, you can also have some fun with what you're doing, enhancing the quality of life, and that is economic development. And I'll tell you why. Because when Carl is chasing a lead, he realizes that these folks that might be bringing 50 jobs to our community are also looking at Spokane and Boise and other places. And the first step is proving to these folks that this is a good place for business, okay, that you got available land, the pricing is good. So, on and on. But then you get to the second tier. Is this where the employees want to live? And that's where enhancing the quality of life fits in for job recruitment, and also for all of you in the room here, for all of us that live here. We get benefit from these things too, such as the boardwalks along the waterfront or the green spaces. Whatever we can do to enhance the quality of life benefits us as well. And for the sister organization, the Convention Bureau helps bring visitors in. And if they come to a community that is attractive and so forth, they'll want to come back. So this is one of our projects. It's in East Kennewick. It's called Culver Island. And you can see a lot of concrete was dumped over the banks. That was done in the 1950s and 60s when if contractors had a little bit of excess concrete, dump it over the bank, help stabilize the bank, right? We don't do that nowadays. So with Culver Island, we've been involved with a multi-year renovation project. And you can see in the little slide, I'm looking up for it over here, but on my screen it shows, see if I there we go. That's what it looks like now. We partnered with the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation and the Army Corps of Engineers. We got a $5 million federal grant from the Corps to go back and revitalize the shoreline, to take out the ugly, environmentally damaging concrete, and we revitalized the shoreline. Working with the tribes, we put in plantings that were more or less natural to our area before we kind of came in and did some negative things. The project was really twofold. One was to enhance the environment for wildlife, better fish and wildlife habitat. And then also, you can see some of the pathways up top. The project also provided areas for the public, for people like you and me to go in and walk the pathways. So that's part of our revitalization efforts. Culver Island looks a lot better today than it did a few years ago. And again, you'll kind of catch this flavor throughout the presentations, partnering with the tribes, partnering with the Corps of Engineers, and you try to create as many partnerships as you can to leverage goodwill and dollars. So this is another area down in East Kennewick. It is along Columbia Drive, and it's an area called Duffy's Pond. It's a really neat little pond area, but it had a lot of problems. You see the picture with the tires in the water. All that was cleaned up through volunteer efforts. We even had, remember, we had Kennewick City Councilmen and women in there and waiters pulling out the tires. And I like a couple of these pictures here because I like the one with the big junky thing in there. To me, that looks like a fire pit. I'm like, hey, we could have a really neat fire pit there. One of my favorite slides, and I hope you can see it on the Facebook stuff, but there's a big pile of junk there. You see some 55-gallon drums and some old tires and buckets and stuff. And I make a joke about that I used to watch this show called American Pickers. Remember where the two guys go through and they go through all these junky places? That would have been a great place for them. But unfortunately, or fortunately, it's been cleaned up. This is what it looks like today. So no more junk picking through there, but we've now worked with the city of Kennewick. We have a bike path and a pedestrian path along the water. We've built in a couple winery buildings where the small wineries are producing wine. We have tasting rooms. So you see, you go from the junk pile to the people having a glass of wine, the kids riding the bikes. So again, that is helping revitalize some of our more distressed areas of town. And that's kind of what ports do, is you don't necessarily look for the best part of town because it's already got the momentum. So sometimes we come in and we take the more difficult projects. And that's something you can do with, we have taxpayer funding and you make sure the public is supportive of that. And that's really where the government come in and do some things in the parts of town that need a little bit more help. So here we are at the wine village now. You have the gentleman in the red graduation cap, that's Ron Swanby. He was the first purchaser of property from the port, and he moved from a food truck into buying property, building a building. It's called Swampy's Barbecue. He's very successful, and I'd like to make another joke for those of you that have been watching our national politics. That's Ron Swanby with a giant pair of scissors. That's not Elon Musk with his chainsaw. And then up on the top of the screen, it says WEDA, Washington was the Economic Development Association. We won an award for some of our revitalization efforts down in that part of town. We're now going to transition to Vista Field, which is just a little bit to the east of where we're sitting today. Vista Field was the old airport. It was a very small airport. They only had 15 to 20 private planes using it. It was a real challenge for the Port of Kennewick because we had to keep putting money into the airport. It was, we have 103 acres out there now. We had a public process, and the public advised the Port Commission that it would be a good idea to close that airport and look at bringing the land into a higher use. Now, when we closed the airport, it's another good thing you see with the ports. There weren't any bigger planes, so we couldn't have given them to Adam because he's got the big airport, the Tri-Cities Airport. But we gave some of our planes to Diahann because Port of Benton has a vibrant, what they call GA airport, general aviation for the smaller pilots. So we're able to transition folks from our site to other sites in the community. So now we can focus on Vista Field. It's going to be what we call a new urbanist community. And it's kind of like that movie Back to the Future. New urbanism is something that we talk about as a new concept. It started in Florida. It's kind of transitioned into California. You see some of it on the west side in the Seattle area. But it really goes back to how our communities were built in the 1920s and 30s prior to World War II. And by that, I mean you had the small, compact downtowns that were highly walkable. They had shopping. They had little businesses on the lower floor. And then they might have had some apartments and places to live for people on the second floors. So we're trying to go back to the future, so to speak, with the Vista Field project, be a part of our community that can create a center of focus, kind of a center of the Tri-Cities community. It will be accessible by car. You can drive through there, so don't worry that we're excluding car traffic, but it's also an area where the public can blend in, where you feel comfortable walking the streets, the traffic is slowed down, and then there's things for you to do. You can park your car, you can walk through, and then as we get going further with Vista Field, there will be shopping, there will be places to live. It will be a truly mixed-use community. So right now we put in some of the basic infrastructure, we put in some of the amenities. We have about 20 acres that's available for sale. We've got 6 land sales already on the book. If you take the little tour with us afterwards, you're going to see one business that's already building, and we're going to see more activity this spring of other businesses going in. We also just signed a deal with a home builder to do 300 homes over who knows how many years, probably 10 plus years. And these are going to be interesting homes. They're on a little bit smaller lots. And the homes are going to have some really interesting flair. So we're trying to do some things that, again, harkens back to how some of our greatest communities were built back in the 20s and 30s with some architectural style. This is a sign I like. I drive by it every day to see if we can put any more sold stickers on it. So we've sold, by my count, 6 parcels, got a few others interested, and it's really getting interesting now. And let me see if we could advance one more picture. There we go. We've got a groundbreaking. This is Isabel Na, and she and her family have 2 Japanese restaurants in our community. This will be her 3rd, and I'm so proud of these folks because it's a small family-run business, and they will now have 3 businesses in our community. Called Kuki Izakaya. Hopefully I can say that right, but I know that Carl and I are really interested because when she gets it built, we want to be the first 2 patrons. We want to sit out on the outdoor area there and enjoy some of the food and maybe even some of the drink, right, Carl?
Looking forward to it, Tim.
Yeah. And then at the southern end of the airport, we have 3 aviation hangars that were left over from the airport. And then you sit there and you say, okay, what do we do with these hangars? We tried to work to build them up, so to speak, so we could use them for human occupation. But with the building codes, we just couldn't get them there. So instead of building them up, we tore them down, so to speak. And what we've done is, you can see from the pictures here, we have taken some of the siding off. We've making them open air pavilions. We've got 2 restroom facilities that we built in. We have a little, if you look in between the buildings, we have a little cargo container that the door is open. It could be a stage for musical performances. And what the objective would be is to have some community space built into this village that we're building. So you can come in there, and I would like to see maybe a Saturday market. I'd like to see some of the school groups, the performances from the kids. You name it, it's a place for the public to enjoy. And, you know, those things really provide the vibrancy, because if all we had was a residential housing area, it would be like other places in the community, but you sprinkle in all sorts of other fun things. So you have really a multifaceted community. So this is part of what we want to do to create some of the vibrancy. This is, if you look on the, I guess to me, if I'm facing the screen, to be on the left side of the screen, you see the bigger building. That is a developer out of the Camas, Washington area. They bought property. They're going to do a 5-story building. They will have commercial retail on the bottom floor. Might be a little wine bar, coffee shop, number of small businesses like that. The 2 middle floors will be apartments for rent, upscale apartments. And then the upper 2 floors will be condos, so people can purchase those and live in the community. We're very excited. I also like not only what we're building, but who's building in the community. You saw Isabel. She's actually South Korean, but she has a Japanese restaurant. The gentleman building the 5-story building is Russian, and his family left Russia for political persecution reasons. So again, it's not just what we're building, it's who is building in our community. And really that's kind of the fabric of some of the neater communities that we've toured, where you see a lot of the diversity and a lot of the really unique aspects of it. We have on the lower part of the screen, we have the bridal shop. We're going to have a groundbreaking very soon on that one. And then we have in the upper part of the picture, we have an eye clinic built by 2 optometrists. This will be their 3rd business in our community. And they originally came from rural Idaho. And I know that's important to Carl because he's spent some time in rural Idaho.
Product of the same place.
Right. So they're going to have their eye clinic in there. And then you can see on the far end of the screen, they're building in some space that they can lease out to other people to help establish that vibrancy that we're looking for. So really important to create the, you know, not only diversity of the people that are there, but the diversity of the uses. And I'm glad the eye clinic people are building in some space that they can rent out. And we talked a little bit about these folks called Blue Chart. They're the ones that are going to be doing the 300 units over time. This is kind of a mock-up of what some of the housing might look like. Again, what we're trying to do is to build on smaller lots to create kind of a compact community where you see there's a lot of green spaces, there's little streets and alleys, there's walkable areas. And again, the residential needs to be blended in seamlessly with the other opportunities, the other retail and commercial. So you really want to blend in and have a number of uses there that kind of fit in to make this fabric of the overall community. And I think we're done.
That's it.
How'd I do?
That was great. Perfect.
Who's next?
Adam's next.
There you go.
Pass the torch.
Come on down.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, let's see here. Well, thanks for everybody for being here this morning. My name's Adam Lincoln. I've been on the job for about a month, so this is a good opportunity for me to talk a little bit about the port as best I can, and hopefully any mistakes I make, I'll correct by the time we do this again next week with the regional chambers. So thank you to TriDeck for having us. This is an exciting opportunity to talk a little bit about what we're doing in the region. These are our 3 commissioners, the newest being the gentleman in the center, Hans Engelke. He's been a farmer up north for many, many years, joined the community in the 70s, and he's been a great addition. He was appointed recently to our board after Mr. Klindworth retired 37 years on the job, which was a phenomenal career as an elected official in our community. He did a great job representing the North County, and Mr. Engelke will also be carrying the torch in representing the ag community, mostly in the north end. A little bit of just background information about our port. We're a medium-sized port, 46 employees. I say medium-sized because after meeting some of the folks from Seattle and Tacoma and Vancouver, they've got pretty sizable staff. So most of the financing for the port for us is through either grants or through leases and sales through our tenants that we have. That's means that 3% of our revenue on an annual basis comes from our property taxes. So a pretty small amount that's our taxing. And you can see that we've got a pretty sizable total assessed value. So as our population grows, as new projects come in, that keeps going up and up. And someday I'll have a chart that shows how exponentially it's been growing. You can see we have a pretty diverse portfolio. We've got some of the more traditional ground that we've owned for a long time. So Big Pasco is one that I'll talk about in a moment, where we've got some of the World War II era warehousing. That's where a lot of our tenants are. Around the airport, we've got a lot of tenants that have various industrial uses around the buildings that are there. We've got the Ryman Center where Dairy Gold's going, and some more ag land that's going to be put to use to other industrial uses out there. And then we've got, of course, land where the food processors have gone as well. Reese's being the newest, and the new Amazon facility for the same day delivery that I at least very much enjoy is also on property that we've sold. One of the bigger items that I'm personally excited for and have been eager to talk about with folks is the Osprey Point development. This is not too dissimilar from what we were talking about a moment ago with the old airport, but the vision very similar. This is a piece of ground that's by the port headquarters currently, and something that we could see a combination of mixed use, an outdoor market, indoor market, and perhaps even a smaller concert venue. So this is something that James Sexton's been talking about in the community for a long time, and very excited to help him make this come to fruition. Hopefully he'll be getting some property from the port this year and actually put shovels in the ground soon. So we're excited to work with him on that. Dairy Gold property is one that is, we thought it was going to be a couple $100 million project, and now has blown into almost $1 billion investment from the combination of Dairy Gold, federal partners, state partners, and local 0.09 economic development funds through the county. So this has been the epitome of a partnership project, like Tim was talking about, where industry has come looking for a site, and we thankfully had the right space for them. It's been a combination of working with the city to make sure that the infrastructure was in place, roads, sewer, water lines, all that fun stuff, and then making sure that they can connect to the Pasco water reuse facility, which is also a great agriculture innovation project that they've had for years. So this is something that should be up and running later this year. It's going to create about 220 jobs just at the site, and up to about 1,100 or so ancillary jobs when you talk about all the ag community that's going to be hiring as well. And then near the site, we still have some acreage that's left over, and we're in talks with several different industries that are looking at being there. Some of them are partners with Dairy Gold and would be a good fit to be on that site to support their efforts. Others just want to be on industrial land, and this is another opportunity to lay in the infrastructure as the government entity and make sure that we're laying the groundwork for the growth of industry. This is Big Pasco. You're probably familiar with it. We've got the lambs and cranes down there, which are awesome to drive under and see the real scale that's there. It's 1940s era buildings, so there's definitely some aging infrastructure there as well, something that we've been trying to go through sort of a building by building modernization process and bring them up to speed. So as we get new tenants, we try to custom build some of the interior, at least for them. I know we've got some tenants down there that have basketball courts and things like that inside their facilities. So there's some really cool stuff down there once you get past the facade that is the 1940s. But it's a big part of our portfolio, and probably about half of our leases are within Big Pasco. It's also where we have our connection to the waterway. So we get barges that come in and out of there. And it's been an important part of our portfolio when it comes to talking about how we support the access to the waterways and making sure that our dams are functional and able to make sure that commerce can keep moving in and out. So our airport director would be remiss if I didn't talk about the growth that we've seen there. So last year we almost got to 1 million employment deployments going through. So this year, I suspect, since we're about 12% up already year to date, we'll cross that million. That'll be the first time that we've done so, and it's meant that even though we did the last iteration of building out the airport in, I think, 2017, it means we're ahead of schedule to need to add to that. So we have a 10-year plan and about $150 million of need to continue to grow the airport to make sure that we're meeting the needs of our community and our users. We're going to be adding 3 jetways, which will help for easier access onto and off of the planes. We're behind the scenes redoing the baggage claim area that needs to be updated so that planes are able to get access to your luggage more quickly. And eventually we'll be even adding another conveyor belt for the luggage. So it's a long-term project. We've got it built into phases. So as we get access to federal dollars and other resources, we can make it happen on a more rapid basis. But it's definitely something that we know is that entrance and exit point for so many of us in the community. And we really want to make sure that it's the well represented and looks good for all of the Tri-Cities to use. One of the things that's kind of one of the fun projects that we're looking at is all the land that we have around the airport. There's acreage that right now just looks empty, and we farm it, and it's protected by the fences around the airport. But there's opportunities where we can be looking to the future. How do we utilize that space? And one of the things that we're looking at potentially is how can we bring more innovation in the aerospace industry to our community, either in manufacturing or in R&D. You're hearing a lot as they're gearing up for the World Cup. You hear big cities like Dallas are looking at doing air taxis that are going to be in and out of the community. And I think that's where we'd like to see either alternative fuels or battery powered or whatever the innovation is. We'd like to try and support industry and see if we can't house some of that here. We have a little bit of it now through some of our partnerships with some of the folks that are out at the labs. And it'd be nice to keep expanding that and providing the space and access to that place where they can do that innovative work. Along the south part of the airport, we also have a space where we're building out. You'll see folks like the Mussers have built in new facilities. We've got the combination of new hangar space and that combination of outside commercial outside of the airport, and the combination of folks that want to do projects that are supported by being on the runway and off the runway at the same time. So you'll see we are working to expand our commercial footprint there on the south side of the airport. So we've already got the Home 2 Suites that just broke ground, which will be the second hotel that's right by the airport facility. That's also A1 Properties, who are great regional partners who support a lot of our communities and in their projects. They're expanding, and hopefully we'll see more of that effort in that area as we make that land available. Excuse me. That's it. That's the portfolio that I could muster together to be able to share with you today. So I appreciate you coming out and listening to my very first foray into what's happening at the Port of Pasco. So thank you.
Great job.
Thanks. Good job.
Thanks.
Take it away, Diahann.
All right. Good morning, everybody. I'm Diahann Howard. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with you all today and share a little bit of the story that's a little bit of crossover between what Tim shared and what Adam shared. So the Port of Benton, we are 2/3 of Benton County. We represent about 56,000 residents. You can see our commissioners' port districts in the yellow, red, and green. And we really focus on 2/3 of Benton County, and the fact that focused on economic development, driving business growth, leveraging our regional assets, and fostering trade and tourism. So some recent project highlights for us. We have really taken on a lot of update of our rail infrastructure. We had a former tenant. It's needed some time and attention. It is a critical asset that serves 1.3 million tons of cargo, and that's jobs at Lineage Logistics, Lamb Weston, Central Washington corn processors. It's an industrial hub for our region and a job center for our region in North Richland. So a lot of the time and attention has been focused on Airport Way, Saint, and we just recently completed 3,000 rail tie replacement. We are getting ready on some other projects that I'll talk about in a moment. The other thing is a lot of focus on both of our airports. We have 2 general aviation airports. So Adam also has some GA, but we are the regional sister airport to Tri-Cities Airport for GA. And then we have a second one in Prosser as well, where we see a lot of tourist flyers in and out of that region. It is incredible the amount of air traffic that we actually see. It really does represent the depth of our region. The other highlight I'm going to point out at Richland that's really critically important to us is this is where LifeFlight's based out of. So the air ambulance service, really critical to our region, a really great service. So it's really important for us to ensure that we're making sure that that asset remains top of the line and ready to serve the region. The building in the middle is the 3110 building. It's right to the south of our administrative offices. We purchased that building, again, in partnership with Benton County and 09 funds. We're really readying this facility for innovation and commercialization facilities, startup businesses, a little bit of partnership of anchored businesses going forward specifically, just similar to Adam and innovation, advanced manufacturing type of space, clean energy. Then we're also got high dock activity that we've got going on, and that's a project I'm going to talk about in a moment. With regards to driving business growth, a quick snapshot of what we've been working on. Again, collaboration and partnership with the City of Richland and Energy Northwest on 1,641 acres of property that we received in 2016. It's a transfer from the Department of Energy. About 1% of the 586 square miles of the Hanford site, just for scale. That project, though, we've been partnering with them and also selling some property to Atlas Agro. Atlas Agro is going to be purchasing 150 acres from the Port of Benton. Again, about 235 jobs, 1,000 induced jobs, secondary jobs to the region. That's a $1.2 billion project. In addition to that, the port's partnered with Energy Northwest to the north. And we actually have a 125 megawatt solar project that's planned called Ruby Flats. Our region is in desperate need of more power. Our hydro system serves all of the Tri-Cities region. We are easily 300 megawatts short of power, and we also need industrial power to continue the growth to make sure that we've got a thriving community. Compliments to all of our utility partners. They have been fabulous to work with. And also compliments to Energy Northwest for really leading the way and paving the way on advanced reactors, a new nuclear, which really can help us keep our utility rates low, and also provides jobs at all socioeconomic levels, from trades to PhDs, right? So it's a really good pillar for us in the region. It's also part of our DNA, agriculture and energy. So related to that, we have a fusion company that's headquartered in Seattle at Avalanche Energy that's also moved into a Port of Benton building. They are investing $39 million in about 20 to 60 jobs that they are actually getting started in the facility now. And then Teridus Winery is in Prosser at the Walter Clore Center. The Clore Center is got 2 facilities, a main center that we're also looking to have some added activity in. We have about 30 events for the wine industry, ongoing education currently now. Teridus, though, moved into the pavilion as a tasting room. They're doing a phenomenal job there. It's a wonderful story of people through the D&E program here that's located at WSU Tri-Cities, and now all the way through and basically branching into about 3 or 4 businesses. So huge compliments to that group of gentlemen. Then another example, Benton City, tied to redevelopment, as Tim mentioned. We did a lot of work in the downtown with 3 buildings where we have sold one of them to Pepper Preppers. That's a great example of a transition of a fire station that we took, re-renovated, and transitioned it over for this commercial kitchen application, small business. What I love about that story is they not only started their own business, but they're helping others start theirs. So that's a little bit about driving business all the way from entrepreneurial startup, mid-level, to future growing, future sectors in advanced nuclear and advanced clean energy. Looking ahead for us, we have upcoming in May, the State Route SR 240 rail crossing, one of the most heavily used crossings behind Van Giesen. We are really pleased with that project. It is in dire need of attention. We also have our Northwest Intermodal facility. So we recently conducted the largest transaction in the city and port history between Richland and the Port of Benton. And we traded property. So we traded some of the remaining property we had in the Northwest Advanced Clean Energy Park for the loop track and about 230 acres around that track. Putting that and assembling it with property the port already has, as well as a rail-related 80,000 square foot intermodal facility. Again, a hub of over 3,000 acres that's already out there for industrial development. We are really positioning ourselves to help serve existing companies, help them not be able to get through the port's gateways of Seattle and Tacoma, and also move domestically to the east, because we want our existing businesses to grow. When we can help those retention and expansions, we're creating jobs for our friends and neighbors right here at home. And so that's really critical to us. So we're looking at running shuttle trains back and forth, and we hope that that can come on in 26, 27. We also have some additional rail improvements that we're needing to put some heavier poundage of rail. The unique feature of the Port of Benton's rail line is that both Class 1s can run direct on the rail. It's property that we received from the Hanford side as Hanford transitioned out of the area, but it also was built in 1956. So we've got 90-pound rail in there. We've got a lot of unit trains coming in and out. We need heavier pound rail. So that's what we're looking to improve. It's specifically in the Y area. And honestly, every industrial client that we've been talking to, not only in the industrial area of the Horn Rapids, but also in the Northwest Advanced Clean Energy Park, is asking for rail service. So we need to make sure that that infrastructure is ready to go. So that has been a really deep dive that our team has taken on since 2019, ensuring that our assets are ready from barge facility to rail to building facilities, as well as our airports. So tied to that, mentioned barge, we have a $2.7 million grant from the state of Washington that we just received in order to get our barge infrastructure ready. We are one of the top 5 nuclear ports in the nation. Our claim to fame on that is we offload the compartments from the Bremerton shipyard. They decommission the ship, they defuel it, and then those come up on barge from Bremerton, and they come up to the Port of Benton, come through our facility in partnership with the Navy. The Navy then takes those big containers, which is in that bottom right picture there, and then they take them out to the Hanford site for long-term storage. And that's when the satellite goes over and accounts to make sure that we're following the decommissioning schedule that was agreed upon between the treaty of the US and Russia. So that's our claim to fame for right now. But going forward, we're gonna have new claims to fame about compartments and new components going in and out to build advanced reactors and innovation that can occur in and around that space of clean energy. Really excited about what can come to the Prosser Airport this year. As mentioned, we finished some major improvements at Richland. We're hoping to update the lighting and rehabilitation of the Prosser Airport. We have had some delay with federal dollars. We are very lucky and blessed that both of our airports are funded by the FAA. So about 90% of the grant dollars we put right back into that asset. We have been waiting for Prosser to have some rehabilitation. Those dollars were delayed last year, so we used our own budget dollars. Port of Benton's budget's only about $17 million. We have over 50 buildings and over 2,000 acres of property that we are trying to manage with that type of a budget. So the leveraging and partnering on grant opportunities is critical for us. And we are less than 30 cents per 1,000 of assessed, so we have really low property tax. And then in addition to the Prosser Airport and hoping that that project comes online, we too are looking at our waterfront property. We are the last raw 20 acres of waterfront property These two gentlemen have some wonderful plans. We hope to join them. We really want to make sure that we can bookend everything along the river. We can make the connections and really drive something that makes North Richland more of a thriving connectivity and connected area to the rest of the region. Really brings some places for people to collaborate. So we are going to be kicking off our waterfront planning element basically later on this year. We've started off with an initial SWOT analysis just to make sure we know what our neighbors are looking for. What does that look like? What do we need in and around the space? We've got PNNL located to the west of us. We've got WSU Tri-Cities to the south of us and Hanford's to the north of us. We really don't, we need some coffee shops. We also want some restaurants. I would love to have a hotel. Because we do have about 7,000 people just in that area alone. Plus you add now what's coming in the industrial area, the probably 3,000 jobs. I think that there's an opportunity for us to drive some a little bit new conversation in North Richland beyond just a place that people just go to work and come home every day. It's really turning into a neighborhood, and that's the compliments to the private investment that's taken place. For the apartments as well as the universities on the development that they have on their property. And again, our partnership with the city of Richland and us transferring some phase 2 of property that we're looking to do. So we're going to reimagine what that area of North Richland could look like between the port and the city and working with our neighborhood partners of WSU, Energy Northwest, and PNNL, as well as the land developers. We really want to make sure that this 20 acres of waterfront helps us truly transition and makes a thriving region in North Richland that benefits and creates jobs for everybody here. So that's our quick summary. Just thank you very much. Appreciate all of you taking your time to be here today and learn a little bit more about what ports do in promoting economic development.
Thanks everybody. That was really good summaries. We'll open it up now for questions. Anybody here that has a question? Just fire off. If you're watching online, you're on social media, you can put your question in the comment section. We'll do our best to get to you. Or if you're on the Zoom session, you can put it in the question and answer. But does anybody want to kick us off with a question here in the room? Yeah.
Hey, good morning. Greg Smith. I had a question. It's kind of for all three of you. All three of you kind of pitched a vision of new development. I guess, how are you collaborating to make sure we're not duplicating the same thing at each city or each port, and each one is unique and different?
I think as somebody who was just working for the cities, I can tell you that the growth that we're experiencing as a region has created a demand that we could probably copy and paste all three and be just I think we have different developers who are going to naturally have different fits. And then, of course, the industry is going to come in with different restaurant mixes and cafes and things like that. So I think from a former city person, I would say I'm not too concerned that you're going to get so much duplication that we can't sustain all three. I think we've just had such pent-up desire for more riverfront developments in our community that all of it is going to be exciting and needed and probably fill in pretty quickly is my guess.
My add-on to that would be that we really try to reflect the communities that we're within. And we also see each other a lot. So he doesn't know it yet, but we see each other a lot. And we are talking about it a lot to make sure that we're supportive of all of the projects. We want to make sure that it works for our entire region. We want to make sure that we're talking about what we're doing, how we can help what he's doing. Like, if we get an inquiry and it doesn't make sense on our property, I'm sending it over to Adam so it can go to the AIM facility because I want to see that happen too. So we basically work together in a united fashion, even on redevelopment. There might be something that they come to us for redevelopment, not knowing that maybe we don't have that type of redevelopment opportunity. So that we're going to send them Tim's way, right? Because they've got the Vista Field project. I think that we each try to reflect the community that we're within, number one, first and foremost. But then it's just coordination across the board. And then what we're doing on the utility side and partnering, not that we're doing anything on the utility side, just for clarification, but the support of that sector is critically important to what we're doing. So I make sure that I'm sharing that with them. Because what's good for basically North Richland is not just for North Richland, it's for Franklin PUD, it's for Benton PUD, it's for this region as a whole. We want to see this region thrive. And so again, it's the conversations that we had, and again, we'll be seeing each other on.
Thank you.
Do you have anything else?
Yeah, just great comments from both of my colleagues. One of the other things we do, like Diane hinted at, is we pay attention to what the other ports are doing. And we are pretty thoughtful about not duplicating things. So Diane's wanting to do rail, we're going to help her with that. We don't do much rail where we're at. So what we want to do working through Carl is we want to have something for these businesses in our community. It doesn't have to be that all three ports have it. So we do. Great question. We do pay attention to that because we don't want to be duplicating services. On the other hand, though, Adam's project that he talked about, their redevelopment project, the mixed-use project, is directly across from where we're at on Clover Island. So we're watching Adam over there because what he builds, yeah, on that side of the river is helping with what we're building in East Kennewick. And so you also try to add on with what your partners are doing to create that synergy. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention the water taxi. We've talked about that in this committee for 30 years. And part of the issue was, okay, if we get a water taxi, where does it go? Well, from East Kennewick, it's going to go across the river to Adams development. Port of Pasco, City of Pasco, some great waterfront that has been pent up for years, and it's just getting developed now. Or as Diane Howard says, we go up to North Richland. So working together, again, being cognizant of not duplicating, because that could be a waste of resources, but we also look at what we can do individually, and then how does that connect with our other partners.
Glad you brought up the water taxi, Tim. That was, I had to hear this question, but you already got it. Thank you. Anything else? Other questions here? Yeah.
I got a question, Adam, specifically for the AIM project. Is there any commercial interest as of yet?
I think it's one of those things that's just been fairly recently come up with as a concept. So no, there hasn't been direct outreach to specific industry yet, but that's going to be the next step, is sort of reaching out to see who might actually want to take advantage of a location here. And then the space is free form at this point. We could really build to suit. There's plenty of land. It's just a matter of finding those right partners. So no, not yet, but soon.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Each of you mentioned those projects that have needs for infrastructure, whether it's water, sewer, utility. Diane mentioned power limitations. What infrastructure limitations are you seeing? Are you seeing bottlenecks and things, and how do we get past those to bring these developments infrastructure?
I'd say power is really the biggest choke point, and I think it's not just the Tri-Cities, it's everyone. You know, right now it's projected by 2050, we need to be increasing utility demand by 2 to 3% as a nation year over year. So there is a huge demand for that. I think AI is only compounding that issue and making it more of a need. So that is the biggest bottleneck. I would say the second biggest bottleneck for us is just specifically for the Port of Benton is we really need to open up some of these federal funding opportunities and get those things moving again, because we really need to be putting money back into our assets so that we can ready them for what's coming. We know, we see the growth, we see the demand that's already occurring, and our number one responsibility is making sure we serve all of you. We serve the businesses, and we make sure our infrastructure is ready, from our airports to our rail to our building facilities. We want to make sure that there's an opportunity and option, whether you're a small business, a mid-sized business, or a bigger business. We really want to make sure we capture that here, because then we help the vitality of our entire region, and that's true economic development, right? Is making sure that we're reaching in and lifting everyone up.
I think just to add on a little bit, we're so multifaceted. We're not just, you know, with the city, it was making sure you have the infrastructure to a physical site location. But here we have to worry about rail access. We have to worry about the riverway. Power is certainly the number one, hands down, the number one. But it's really been fascinating the second week on the job, going back to DC and advocating for making sure that the riverway was going to remain functional for us, because all of us depend on, everyone in this community depends on the waterway, either for the physical water, the resource itself, or for moving commerce, or for recreation. There's just so many reasons why we need it, power being one of the largest and most important. But it was interesting because, you know, we're talk on a national level every day about the cuts that are happening. But for us, one of the big impacts has been if we lose NOAA or Army Corps of Engineer jobs. Those are people who are processing the permits that we need to do the developments on the river or to keep that commerce moving. So it's been really interesting, the relationship between something that seems like a benign news story that truly has a big impact locally. So I would say that while the roads and the sewers and the water system is certainly critical infrastructure, we've got really good partners who do that all the time. The cities are really good at partnering with us as jurisdictions who can lay in the more traditional. Rail gets to be a little more complicated, making sure that you have the good partners who are putting that in. And it's not like you can just really easily move that rail once it's there. It gets a lot of use, and it's critical where it goes. Plus, you're dealing with big industries like BNSF and Union Pacific, and people who are older than the state, who they get their way pretty regularly. So we want to be good partners with them. And really all of it just comes back to how can we keep those leads that Diahann was talking about coming here, and power is by far, in a way, the number one thing that we need.
And the one piece I'd also add on that we really typically haven't had to think about, but now we are, is workforce development, right? So workforce, it's not that ports lead workforce, we do not, but we convene it. We need to make sure that it's matching up with the companies that are coming in so that they're trained and ready to come out of trades or come out of CPC or WSU, and they can meet the need of that employer. Workforce development is another big issue, and it's not just a Tri-Cities issue, it's across the US. But we are very uniquely positioned to be successful in this space, especially when it comes to clean energy, innovation. We've got 3,000 engineers sitting in this community right now. That's a phenomenal number, really, when you look at the scheme of things. And so we've got a huge opportunity as we look to transition the Hanford site and from cleanup to full operations for a bit. And there's again, opportunities for other businesses to be in and around that space. So we're really making sure we can capture that, working with our partners. So we don't lead it, but we do help support it, because that's also the second question that we get for every industrial client that we speak to.
How about infrastructure at Vista Field? You guys kind of, I think, change the paradigm a bit versus a typical development pattern. You want to maybe talk about infrastructure as, you know, where Kennewick's led that infrastructure development for that?
Sure, yeah, kind of where we're coming from. One of the bottlenecks to development related to the infrastructure is the cost to the private sector. So, for example, the housing company, Blue Chart, they said, we want to buy lots from you that have all of the infrastructure already in, that are ready to develop. So, and that's actually what a lot of our small to mid-sized businesses are looking for, because if you tell them you've got to go build 200 feet of streets, curbs, gutter, sidewalk, put in all the underground utilities, upsize the systems, because whenever you do development, the cities can be careful. Well, what's a water, right? Yep. What's a water line? Oh, you got to upsize the water line. Sewer, you got to upsize the sewer. So if we can come in as a small government entity, Port of Kennewick, do all of that stuff that nobody really wants to think about, and you create buildable sites, whether it's for residential or the 5-story building going in, it really makes it a lot easier for the developer. The other part of it, and we've seen this, we started Vista Field right before COVID, and then you get bogged down with, okay, now I thought we were economic development, but we all got to move into, we're healthcare agencies. We have to figure out what COVID means for our employees, for the public. What does it mean for supply issues? That might be getting your question. There was a time when you had the workforce, but you couldn't get simple things like electrical conduit. I remember one case, you had all electrical in, but they couldn't pass the project because you needed a breaker, and the breakers were 3 months out. So we've been through some of the supply chain issues. We've been through where you bid things and the prices are pretty high because everybody is concerned about the unknown. The good news is prices have come back down. We've bid some larger projects here recently. The prices are back down. If I had some wood, I'd knock on the wood. So to answer your question, I think the more that governments can do while staying in their lane and getting property closer to shovel ready is beneficial. And I see JUB, we use a lot of engineers, architects, professionals to, help get this stuff ready to go. So you try to absorb as many of the bottlenecks as you can at our end. So when you get to the private user, it's easier for them to develop. Yeah.
Hi, good morning. Cassie Hammond, Director of Government Affairs at the Port of Benton, Diahann. I'd be remiss to not talk about the legislative session going on. So the operating budget has passed on the chair and the House majority side, and they're still in budget negotiations, but economic development was a huge cut, which is incredibly concerning. So what would you say about going forward for the next couple of years as economic development seems to not be on the forefront of the legislators' session?
I would say that when economic developments and struggle like that, that's more reason for us to dig in. Ports by state statute, RCW 53, are designated for economic development. It is our time to help fill in and support with the rest of our partners and really help drive that activity to occur. I really believe that there's some great people at the state, and I hope that that comes through in a much better position than it's currently presented. And we're going to be fully supportive of whatever the result is, and we want to make sure that they stay and remain our partner. But we've got to, at a time of crisis, that's when everybody looks around, and that's when you need economic development, so that when that time of crisis comes, it doesn't hurt as deeply. And unfortunately, I don't know what's going to happen, but I just know that we as ports need to step up with our partners, all of our partners in the community, to make sure that we continue to take action and move forward.
I'd say that trying to follow what goes on in a legislative session is difficult enough without having professionals like yourself that do it for a living and can track bills. So it's really critical when we know about shortcomings of budgets or bills that are going to impact industry, that we're getting the word out to our partner agencies and to our friends. And for those of us lucky enough to have lobbyists that work for us, to those folks that can be the boots on the ground in Olympia or in DC and try and carry that message more effectively, that these are things that we need. These aren't just lines on a sheet of paper. These are jobs. These are projects that move the needle for our community. And the more that we're talking about those things, the more we're interacting with our legislators, the more we're calling them, writing them, the more they have ammunition when they go to the floor to stand up and fight for funding for, say, our ADO. When things like that are on the chopping block, it makes it really hard for us to thrive as a community. And the first thing that goes is always this, oh, well, I don't know what this is, so it gets cut. So the more informed we can make our delegation, the better. And they've been great champions for projects for our government entities. They support funding projects for us all the time. They've been great partners. They just need to know in the weeds, because they're getting hit with hundreds, if not thousands, of bills at a time, where it's really hard for them to track what's important, what's happening. And that's part of the tactics that happen in Olympia or DC, that so much is happening at once that you don't see in the weeds things. And we have to play a vital role in informing them, informing our communities that these are important things for us, that the funding matters.
I think tied to that, they need to hear from all of you. So a great example of that is there's a targeted urban area bill right now. We really need that support for that bill. The city of Richland has led the way on that, and that has been able to help support our industrial recruitment efforts in North Richland. So huge compliments to our delegation of the 8th and the 16th. They've been phenomenal to work with, but we really ask all of you to continue to voice your thoughts to them and make sure that they understand that is really critical for us to continue to be successful.
We're down to like 1 minute. Well, Just want to thank everybody again for coming today, and then we'll have some closing remarks. You know, everybody showed up in person, and then those of you that can join us online, really appreciate that support for TriDeck. All of our partners, I think this is a great discussion. I really appreciate you guys and each of your partnerships, the way that we work together and the way that you work together. It really represents well. I think when we really represent that united front that we have as the whole Tri-Cities community, it shows up at state level, shows up at the Fed level, and you guys are doing a great job. So closing remarks, Diane, go first.
Again, just like to thank all of you for your time today. I think there's huge opportunities for the Tri-Cities region. It might feel a little dire right now, but you know what? I turn my frown upside down and I look at opportunities that we have on behalf of this region. What a phenomenal community. I am so proud of my team. I am so proud and I thank my team. I'm so proud of the opportunities and projects that we're able to bring forward for our community and our partners each and every day. And I look forward to continuing to hear from you and continuing to work for you. Again, we think that this is the place. So let's make it happen. Thank you.
Adam.
Thank you all for having us today. I'm really excited to be a part of the port community, be a little more focused on specific parts of economic development and really help drive some of the really cool projects that are happening in our region. So thank you all and thanks for having this conversation. It's really nice to be able to talk about what ports do, because I don't think enough people know that we exist or that there's 76 of us in the state of Washington. So thank you.
Thanks, Adam. Tim, take some.
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity, Carl, and my colleagues, and thank you for all of you in the room and those of you that are watching online. You know, it really comes down to, as Diane said, this is a really great community. And our port districts, if you really break it down, it's you folks in the room. It's everybody that participates, and you participate through paying property taxes, you participate through helping support our community if you're a business and you lease one of the spaces from us. But it really is kind of a community-driven, small-town effort. And while we have 3 ports, we do keep in touch with each other to answer your question, so we don't overlap, because we don't want to have many layers of government doing the same thing. The other thing is that we work for elected officials, and you vote them into office. So you have a say in how these ports run by going to the ballot box. Why I think that's important for our port is we have one commissioner who has decided not to refile. So there's going to be a vacancy, and you can go to our website and see which district it's in. But we are actively looking for folks that really want to participate. So there's a great opportunity to you know, serve in an elected office as a port commissioner, because there are 3 commissioners in each district and you have a lot of influence. So it's a very important position. And again, remember, it's community driven. It's all of you people in the room. It's all of us, because we all live in our port districts. We pay taxes in as well. So it really is a community driven effort. We appreciate Carl's efforts because he's kind of the shepherd for all of us when we start to wander. And Carl has provided a lot of cohesiveness to help our 3 port districts work well. So thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Quickly, our next notice of development will be May 13th. We'll be back here and online working on the format, or we're going to kind of like keep it work in progress. Exactly. So May 13th. And then if you do want to hear more from our great partners at the ports, they will be on stage at the Regional Chamber of Commerce lunch on April 23rd for State of the Port. So thanks everybody for coming out. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks.